Some of the sights of Debbie, still a tropical storm. Welcome everyone. This is Weather Unfiltered. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson, as always, with our hurricane expert, Dr. Nab. We've got a busy day ahead here on Weather Unfiltered. Still tracking Debbie, still bringing rain to portions of the Carolina coastline.
Yeah, some people haven't been affected a lot, but some people have had water in their homes, and that risk continues for the next couple of days, heading more and more into North Carolina.
And then up into parts of the Northeast after a very heavy rain event last night. Showing you some of the scenes in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's where we find a few of our crews as we monitor the threat of heavy rain in those areas.
That does include Stephanie Abrams. She is in Myrtle Beach. Steph, these bands are hitting you pretty hard. Tell us about conditions right now. How have they changed?
They are, and I've got to tell you, Mike.
I want to switch gears, take you to a virtual view of Raleigh, North Carolina, and what you're going to be up against is that very heavy rain action that Dr. Nab was just talking about. We look at what's been happening right now. We do have some rain in the area, but the heavier, steadier stuff still lingering off to the south, well off to the south and to the southeast. Rainfall to come, though, another 5 to 8 inches likely in the Raleigh area. So I think a half foot very attainable between now and the end of the week, with some higher amounts as we work our way down Interstate 40 into the southeast part of the state of North Carolina. So this afternoon, expect heavier downpours, more filling in as we move into the later hours of today and tonight. So I'd say late evening through the overnight, that'll bring another higher chance of more coverage of rain and heavier amounts of rain rolling through. Tomorrow morning commute going to be a mess. Afternoon commute may not be much better. In fact, Thursday offering up good opportunities for rain across the Triangle region, Durham, Raleigh, over towards Chapel Hill. You're also going to be getting wet and very wet at times. We've got the winds. They'll be picking up at times 20 to 25 mile an hour gusts in both Greenville, Raleigh. Now tomorrow, with this system beginning to move, some of those heavier bursts accompanied by winds up to 40, even 50 mile an hour gusts possible in some spots. So would not be out of the realm of possibility to see some falling trees, because now remember, we've seen so much rain in the area. Now we're getting some of those heavier gusts back in the area, and that could lead to not just down trees, but also power issues. Right now, it's areas north of Wilmington that have seen the persistent heavy downpours, also up into the outer banks. So you see those bands from Debbie continuing to bring those tropical downpours, and they're gusty, similar to what Stephanie was just showing us. Locally higher amounts, but for the Wilmington area, you can expect that we close in on 10 inches of rain. I think a lot of these areas between Myrtle Beach and Wilmington will be approaching double digits, 8, 9 inches likely. These areas getting drenched this afternoon and evening. Overnight, that continues. And through the day Thursday, we will continue to get in on rain. It feels like a repeated forecast because it has been. Mike, even tomorrow afternoon and evening, Myrtle Beach and Wilmington getting some absolute soaking rains. Friday morning, still some wet weather in the area.
Yeah, it's amazing how much staying power this
these
thing
tropical systems, no stranger to being tornado producers. Most of these tornadoes in tropical systems are associated with supercells. They occur as the system comes on shore. Then you get the friction with the land. Many tropical tornadoes are weak and short-lived, but as we saw with Beryl last month, we had some big-time higher-end tornadoes with that. They're common in that right front quadrant, and as I mentioned, land interaction, the friction plays a role in what we see. Severe weather today across eastern parts of North Carolina and into the Myrtle Beach area where Stephanie is. Now tomorrow we get you up into Virginia. So now we're looking at parts of especially central and southern Virginia across the state of North Carolina. I'd say the eastern half, 40%, looking at the possibility of severe weather and tornadoes. Torcon values would be in that 2 to 3 range once again. So not an overwhelmingly high risk of tornadoes, but certainly an isolated or scattered tornado possibility. We've seen them already into the state of South Carolina. Monk's Corner had a pretty significant damaging tornado. That did some damage to some of the fast food places and some of the other businesses in the community. Future radar does show those bands
more northward progress here and pick up some speed. And so, once we get past, I think today, then we'll start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. Yeah. But you can see it's emerged back out over the water here, may then start to come back into South Carolina, but you can certainly see the banding.
Yeah, we've got to watch that, front right quadrant. That typically is the spot. We get these storms moving on shore, and the friction along with the winds at mid-levels, that allows for those rotating storms to develop. A lot of these are weak, short-lived, but as we saw with Beryl, It's not always.
Yeah, and as we saw in that video, right?
Yeah.
Like if it happens right in your parking lot, your neighborhood, it could do some damage. And so you always want to be aware. The threat today is going to be Myrtle Beach up through, say, Nags Head. So a lot of places here where there'll still be a lot of people vacationing. Great spots to be in the summertime.
Yeah.
It can be, very dangerous. Just be careful. And you might actually see some water spouts offshore that could come onshore then.
Yes, something to watch for today. Now, tomorrow, with the system beginning to move back into parts of the mid-Atlantic, we've got a little higher chance of tornadoes, and it's a little farther to the north. So now it's places east of Raleigh, up into south central sections of Virginia. But this includes the Richmond area.
Yeah, heads up, Danville to Richmond. That could be a spot where you could be looking for some tornadoes there. Not to mention we'll have some really heavy rain, so flooding is a concern. But Torcon of 3 for you here. Jacksonville straight northbound. So in those spots, again, relatively low chances for tornadoes. But when you see the future radar, you can see how things really get amped up, especially through the night tonight and the day tomorrow.
Yeah, so overnight, don't want to rule out that chance. Have a way to get those warnings. Charlotte starting the day with some really heavy downpours. So even outside the severe threat, the rain, the tropical downpours, reducing visibilities for your morning drive. And then tomorrow afternoon, you see parts of Virginia getting in on the mess, I-81, portions of, 64 there into central Virginia. We could see some big problems.
But finally, though, here we are Friday morning. Finally, it's exited South Carolina. It's about to leave North Carolina, but the problems are just beginning in Virginia and then Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Yeah, we look at Friday's severe weather risk. Parts of the Delmarva, the entire state of Delaware, just about the entire state of New Jersey, under at least a slight chance of severe weather. Lehigh Valley, Philly metro area, Baltimore and D.C., and New York. So it's not a huge area, but there's a ton of people.
And the center of circulation is going to be back here, right? So it's all going to be on the east side where we've got a severe weather threat with a really heavy rain. It's probably going to be a little more interior. And you'll see that here on the future radar. Again, there's where the heavy rain is, but the severe threat will be more up to the east here, probably like I-95 out to the water.
Yeah, so it might be a quick hitter, but it could be a potent hitter as we end our weekend, head into the start of the weekend. Dr. Nab, we got to talk about what we've been tracking, and of course, absolutely, it's always a waiting game for those. The flash flooding up and down quickly. The rivers take a little bit of time. Steph, thanks so much. We do have a recap for you. This has been a persistent and long-lived storm across sections of the southeast, from parts of Florida and Georgia into the Carolinas. Storm reports, look at all those flood and wind reports coming in across Florida, flooding reports around Savannah, and then we had flood and tornado reports into the low country of South Carolina, back towards the Midlands, and now our attention beginning to turn more to North Carolina with the heaviest of rain moving that way. Power outage tracker, right now we still have 28,000 plus customers without power in Florida. In Georgia, just over 4,000 customers. South Carolina, just under 3,000 customers. So you can see the wind became less problematic as the storm moved farther to the north. Top rain reports, Lake City, Florida, nearly 20 inches of rain. In Parrish, almost 19. Lakewood Ranch had over 18 inches, so over 1.5 feet of rain, closing in on 1.5 feet for Sarasota, and Ellington, nearly 15 inches of rain coming down. Across the state of South Carolina, Summerville has picked up over 17 inches, Beaufort over 13 inches, Charleston at 11 inches, and then in Calabash, North Carolina, over 7, almost 7.25. We're going to see those numbers into North Carolina on the rise. That's where the heaviest rain is still to come. Also parts of northeast South Carolina, another 8 to 12 inches on the way. We'll watch where those heavier bands set up. Even parts of Virginia, 5 to 8 plus inch amounts, especially down in the southwest part of the state. Raleigh area, you've already seen heavy rain. More on the way. Another 5 to 8 inches coming from Raleigh to Chapel Hill to Greensboro.